Hey, good morning everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for July 14th, 2017. Happy Friday. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. We're seconds away from a slew of economic data coming out here on Friday. Core CPI, core retail sales, core CPI month over month, retail sales, and then there's much more to go heading into 9 a.m. Central. So a ton of reports this morning. And so you may see these charts start to move here in a moment. We had a recent squeeze here in the ES. Remember, sitting right here toward the middle of this range, I just mentioned there wasn't much edge, so I was kind of holding off out of this one. But the overall framework was still up, and this thing got a great squeeze through 24.30. And once that was the case, we had a couple of magnets up top, the 43 halves. And then again, the 24.50s, 51 half being the high. And this has been a fade the edges type of trading range as balance has been created up here at these highs. And again, as price gets above these recent highs here, looking for signs of rejection for perhaps a pullback. Meanwhile, bulls will be looking to get a big time squeeze through that zone. That would suggest perhaps a price discovery phase and perhaps finding new value above or creating support off of this current resistance level. So there's a lot of different scenarios here, but overall the squeeze is to the upside. We'll see how price plays out above these highs, because any failure above yesterday's high will be an early indication of a return back to lows and perhaps back into the FOMC key level of 36.25. So let's take a look here at the intraday time frame. There we go. So right now, price testing the previous close at the moment and approaching the previous high. This is what I mentioned to our traders yesterday: is watch the previous high here, because if there's a rejection at that level, there could be a quick push back and toward the prior low. So we've gotten most of the way there on the first push, now coming back, and that's going to be an opportunity again to watch for signs of rejection for a push back down. Acceptance beyond that zone will start to push through 51s into those recent highs. Let's take a look here at crude oil. Now, crude oil's had several important tests at key levels of ours and has held on every turn, even though I haven't been super confident in the current moves. It doesn't matter. This thing has been moving very, very nicely. The first one was looking for signs of a rejection below 43.76 to consider longs back up. Didn't quite get as high as we thought it might, and it started to waver on this day, taking the previous month's close offer that day, and dropped right back into 76 half. So I mentioned a pullback to 76 half could be a big time buying opportunity for a push higher, and it's been the ultimate buy zone, even though again it wasn't normal or typical price action around that zone. It still held up very nicely, and we've seen a squeeze in market structure maintain itself to the upside. So this is quite bullish. Again, once we pulled back this day, I mentioned that 45s was going to be an important swing buying point for bulls. And right there, 45 has been the low, and we rallied into 46.62 right now, last price. That's a nice push. So there's been multiple opportunities here for some swing players and also for day trading. I mean, yesterday was a nice trend structure up, and this could continue in this way. If price is starting to break through multiple day highs here, it could turn out to be a stop run day. Look for that midpoint to come up toward that breakout point or beyond it, if that becomes the case. So if we take a look here at the intraday time frame for crude, you'll notice it has also a trend structure up. Nice bullish path here, and it's also has clean market structure where it's holding here above the 28s. That's also where you have an LVN and VWAP and market structure right here. So any pullback to that zone would be a buying opportunity for bulls, and a nice clean market structure up outside of R3 right now. We'll see how much more strength this has, but we could have a trend day structure on our hands if this thing maintains acceptance above 46.28. So 47.32 would be the next major upside target in that scenario. Let's take a look at gold here. Here's a look at gold in the daily time frame. In the daily time frame, we've seen nothing but downtrending structure. We mentioned before that and we really haven't seen rejection just yet. We had a couple of zones to watch for a squeeze, but we haven't seen rejection. And recently here, we just got below these lows. We had a mild, very mild rejection day there, held the mid, and day over day we've had higher highs, higher lows, and right now we are starting to break the inside day to the upside and are retesting the very important 1229.70 key level. And so if you look at this in a 60-minute intraday chart, you'll notice inverted head and shoulder type of pattern. So the market structure has changed, and this is the major level to watch in terms of a continuation, which would start this thing back to value at 1259. But the upper hand right now is still for the bears, and so that's a very important level. So bears want to be able to defend that level and try to get newer lows. So that's why it's such an important inflection point right now. I think as long as price can hold above 1212 here, there's a shot to start pushing higher if it can get through those 1230s. So this is a nice zone here to watch. And if you look at the NQ here, we've had quite a squeeze here. This has been perhaps the best move we've seen in a while. Getting below the previous month's low and failing, holding below the previous month's close and failing, and then we had to start the week a failure below the previous week's close. So lots of failed range expansion, and that's leading to a very nice, highly confirmed squeeze. And you can see off this lower edge down here, never tested the May low, but still squeezed nonetheless below these prices of the auction. We haven't seen rejection up at these highs yet, so we could very well continue to probe up here. The last time we got rejection was off of 58.50, that clean level. So we could still come up into this zone and hunt in this area before we see some sort of perhaps counter move. Acceptance beyond 58.50 would then begin a trend up, but we may need that one to build out before it can build enough juice. So we'll see how it plays out, but I think there could still be a little bit more upside here before we see some sort of turnaround. It took last time a few days before that happened, so we'll see how it plays out. So that's pretty much it for today's market report. Let's see how it plays out the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and happy Friday.